In Regulation H, few teams have had as much success as Marco Silva's Sun team. It is a flexible, dynamic team that focuses on dominating the weather war and having concise answers to meta threats. Today, I'll be breaking down each Pokemon, what they bring to the team, and giving you a head start on one of the most surprising teams this format has produced. Marco Silva's team here consists of Torkoal, Charizard, Ursaluna, Incineroar, Jumpluff, and Porygon2. While these Pokemon are, for the most part, expected in the format, Charizard comes in as an iconic pick that most people counted out, while Ursaluna and Porygon2 have some fun spice when you pull back the curtain. Terrafire Torkoal is your weather setter and a solid Trick Room sweeper. It holds the Eject Pack, which switches the holder out on a stat drop, with the ability Drought to set the Sun on switch in. It runs Eruption and Overheat for damage, Helping Hand for support, and Protect to round things out. Eject Pact here is a pivot tool that can be procced by opposing Incineroars, Intimidates, or by your own Overheat. While out of Trick Room, using Overheat will give whatever Pokemon you have in the back a safe switch in when it drops your stats, as Torkoal is often going to be the last thing that moves. On top of this, Eruption is a classic Torkoal sweeper move, and Helping Hand allows it to give boosts to your other incredibly strong attackers that it will often be paired with. Speaking of, Charizard is the obvious pairing here with Torkoal. It holds the choice specs, getting a great boost to its special attack at the cost of only using the first move it selects, and when paired with its ability Solar Power, boosting your damage in the sun at the cost of some HP every turn, it hits unbelievably hard. It has Air Slash, Heat Wave, Overheat, and Weather Ball as its 4 moves. This Charizard is statted for maximum damage and speed. Choice Specs really ramps up the heat for Charizard, as even out of the sun, Air Slash and Heat Wave do a ton of work, and Weather Ball gives you flexible damage against rain and sand teams. With Alolan Ninetales becoming more prominent, Charizard only gets stronger and Weather Ball only gets more flexible. Your other big damage sweeper that you do like to switch in off of Torkoal is Ursaluna. Its attack stat here is maxed out, but it notably has a respectable amount of speed investment, allowing it to function in all of Trick Room, Tailwind, and neutral speed states. It holds the Flame Orb with the Guts ability to boost its already astronomical attack when burned, and runs a standard moveset of Headlong Rush, Facade, Earthquake, and Protect. Terra Ghost here avoids scary close combats, as well as giving you a clear run through fake-out users. Ursaluna's speed is something many people won't have protocols for, giving you surprising advantages mainly in Tailwind and neutral speed states. It's a little more fragile than usual, but with Guts, it still hits incredibly hard, even after an Intimidate or 2, so sometimes that sacrifice of HP just won't matter. Of course, be careful not to switch it into a knockoff, as you'll quickly lose out on a lot of pressure. One of those knockoff Pokemon is one that we'll be bringing to the table. Incineroar remains one of the best Pokemon in Regulation H, and we won't be missing out on it. In this case, it's going to be a more aggressive Incineroar than you might be used to. It holds the Citrus Berry for some additional bulk, with Intimidate of course, and the standard moveset of Fake Out, Flare Blitz, Parting Shot, and Knockoff. Terra Ghost again lets you avoid Fake Out and super effective fighting type moves. With this Incineroar, you'll either be slower or less bulky than most other Incineroars, but you sacrifice those stats for more damage. You're able to take advantage of the sun very well. With Flare Blitz and your middling speed works great for your Tail Room setups. Knockoff remains an incredible move against lots of Ghost Terras in the meta, and Parting Shot gives you the ability to pivot in and out of dangerous spots. Now, we're getting into the real glue of the team. Jumpluff is your Tailwind setter, doubling its speed in the sun with Chlorophyll. Covert Cloak means it can move freely against fake-out users, making it a great support Pokemon. It runs Sleep Powder, Sunny Day, Tailwind, and Rage Powder. Terra Water here rounds things out defensively. This Jumpluff loves the sun, but it's fast enough that it can get off Tailwind and Sunny Day before almost anything else moves anyways. Both powder moves provide great utility, but be wary of misses with Sleep Powder and the taunt users like Sneasler and Prankster Pokemon that can give you trouble. Also be careful that you don't reach a point that Jumpluff is your last Pokemon, as without any damaging moves, you're likely going to lose immediately. Now, you might not think it, but we have saved the best Pokemon on this team for last. On the surface, it is mostly just another Porygon2. It holds an Eviolite, has Download, and runs Terra Blast, Ice Beam, Recover, and Trick Room with Terra Fighting. Notably, this Porygon has some very unusual stats compared to what you would expect, with a lot of investment in special attack that lets it deal great damage with its also surprising versatile move pool. Now to note, this Porygon2 build has since become more popular since the rise of this team, but beforehand, this is not something that you would have seen. While Porygon2 is still plenty tanky with good HP investment and Eviolite boosting its defenses, along with Recover for sustainability, the real power of this Pokemon comes from the moveset. Terra Blast acts as a stab normal attack that can put out consistent damage on just about every Pokemon. Ice Beam gives you more coverage and does great work against popular Pokemon like Rillaboom, Dragonite, and Garchomp, and most importantly, where the coverage on these fails, mainly against your bulky Dark types in Incineroar and Kingambit, Porygon2 has an elegant answer, Terra Fighting Terra Blast. Previously, it would be somewhat trivial to wall Porygon2 with common threats, but it quickly becomes incredibly dangerous once your opponent has to contend with a special fighting type attack. Porygon2 will often be your win condition, and not because it can outstall your opponent or set up Trick Room, which it still can certainly do, but because it has a Swiss Army knife of damage options that do a ton of work into the current format. This team is not one where the leads are immutable, and oftentimes it will be up to your judgment to bring the right forth, but there are consistent cores that work well into a lot of popular compositions. With that, let's get into the games. Alright folks, game number 1 here is up against a Psyspam hard Trick Room team. Honestly, we're just going to be really aggressive here. We're going to have the speed advantage with most of our Pokemon, leading with Torkoal and Charizard, and following up with big damage is going to be the name of the game. Our opponent leads with Indeedee and Hatter, and we bring out Torkoal and Charizard. We're just going to go for damage right off the bat. Psychic Surge is here. I imagine we're going to get a Trick Room plus Expanding Force out of these two Pokemon. Our opponent doesn't really have any good or safe switch-ins. It could potentially bring in Ursaluna Bloodwind, but it's going to be taking a lot of really big damage early from this duo. Heat Wave just takes out the Hatterene incredibly cleanly, and Indeedee takes a ton of damage. It does not get a move off before Torkoal, so that means it was going for Trick Room. Eruption takes it out cleanly. We already have a 2-0 Pokemon lead. With that Sun being up, the Eruption and the Heat Wave just do so much damage. We do see that Ursaluna coming in now, but it is not going to be able to get that Guts up. It's going to have to protect. Gallade notably does have Wide Guard here. That is going to be something to be aware of. It will block both Heat Wave and Eruption. But notably, we can just switch out the Charizard. And of course, Torkoal does still have access to Overheat, which will also allow it to switch out at the end of the turn. Now, both of our Pokemon, especially this Torkoal, don't really want to take something like an Earthquake or even potentially a high horsepower, or I'm sorry, a Headlong Rush from the Ursaluna. Earthquake could still be pretty big. The Gallade could go for Wide Guard with an Earthquake from his own Ursaluna. That would stop his Pokemon from getting hit by the Earthquake, but it is just going to be the Facade, and then we get an Overheat off with our Torkoal after we brought the Incineroar in to get an Intimidate out. We do see the Torkoal switch out with the Eject Pack, a very great tech, and we're debating whether to bring Porygon2 or Charizard in. If we bring the Charizard in here, we still get big damage off. Obviously, Heat Wave's still not a great move, but now we can choose between Weather Ball, Overheat, and Air Slash. I think Weather Ball might be a pretty good move here, but I do also want to be careful of getting hit by a Facade or even a close combat from this Gallade. We really don't want either of these Pokemon to survive and get big damage onto Charizard. That would completely take it out. We really want Charizard to be the damage dealer here, and we're probably slower than both of our opponent's Pokemon with Incineroar, so we do actually bring Porygon2 in. That does get a special attack boost. It will apply more pressure, but also if Porygon2 goes down to a close combat, we can bring the Incineroar back in for another Intimidate. We do get that Terastallization off on the Charizard here into that Terra Ghost, but we just see another Wide Guard from the Gallade. So right now, we could take some damage from ground type moves, but Facade would do nothing. We get the Air Slash into the Ursaluna, and it is going to be that Facade going into the Charizard slot, that Terra Ghost really coming in clutch, and now both of our opponent's Pokemon are incredibly weak. Ursaluna does still have that burn, and we win the game. In our second game here, we are up against a bit more of a standard team. There are some differences. This is a little bit of a tough lead here. Honestly, Kingambit and Rillaboom are fine for us to go into, but Volcarona can be a little bit tough, and this Dragonite is going to be annoying. So opponent leads with Electabuzz and Dragonite. We lead with the Jumpluff and the Charizard here, trying to get speed advantage and get damage out. Heat Wave here will break the multi-scale and should do quite a bit to this Electabuzz after we use Sunny Day. Heat Wave comes through, we get a lot, but it doesn't do nearly enough to take out the Electabuzz. We do get a burn on the Dragonite, which is going to be pretty big, but Thunderbolt comes through from the Electabuzz, taking Charizard down a notch, and we get paralyzed. That is incredibly unfortunate. Scale Shot goes into the Jumpluff. Dragonite's going to get a speed boost anyways, but I think we still might have outspeeded with that Charizard going into the next turn. I don't know if Charizard is really going to be all that effective over these next few turns, especially with Solar Power taking its damage, or taking its health down by a little bit more. Scale Shot into the Jumpluff didn't completely KO it, but we're not necessarily in a great spot. Another Thunderbolt from this Electabuzz honestly could be pretty hard. I wouldn't be surprised if Electabuzz does switch out. If for some reason Charizard survives, we could still be feeling pretty good. I don't know if this Dragonite is going to be targeting down the Charizard or if it's going to be trying to take out the Jumpluff. If we get a good switch in, that could get a good spot, but no, it is going to be the Extreme Speed into the Charizard here. We're actually going to go for the Sleep Powder in the Electabuzz, and it's going to go into that Vital Spirit. It does not get to go to sleep, and Thunderbolt comes through, Jumpluff down to just 49 HP. Dragonite is going to get continuously chipped down from its burn, but we're in a really tough spot right now. That said, Porygon2 has some good answers to both of these Pokemon. Rage Powder from Jumpluff can redirect damage from Dragonite and Electabuzz both, but also it can just redirect the damage from the Dragonite, and we can get good damage into the Electabuzz here with a Terra Blast. That will take it out and force our opponent into Pokemon number 3, and Jumpluff will likely go down to a Scale Shot, but our opponent just goes for the Protect, and we actually do go for Tailwind here, trying to get that speed advantage. Ice Beam from the Porygon2 goes into the Dragonite. We don't get the damage out, and Taunt goes into the Porygon2, trying to stop it from setting up Trick Room, but we did actually go for that other speed option in Tailwind with the Jumpluff. So we are still going to be relatively fast here. The danger now, though, is that this Porygon needs to do most of the damage. We do have Ursaluna in the back, but it can't really do a lot of effective damage into this Dragonite, and I don't know what our opponent has in the back. If it is something like a Rillaboom, that is going to be tough, but again, Porygon2 should be able to handle it. And also, if we save our Terra, Porygon2 can do some good stuff. We'll have to see. Our opponent does go for the Terastallization on the Dragonite here. It is going to be that Terra Steel, so it's going to resist any Ice type damage from the Ice Beam going into it. Scale Shot into the Ursaluna isn't going to do all that much. It'll take it down to about half HP. And with our Porygon2, we should be fast enough to take out this Electabuzz early. And at the end of this turn, Ursaluna is going to get that Guts trigger and from the Flame Orb. So we are going to be getting a pretty good damage boost here. And now this Dragonite is touching the ground since it is just a Steel type and has lost the Flying type. Our opponent here, considering which Pokemon to bring in, it is a pretty bit of a hefty debate, and we see the Sneasler is finally what they have decided on. This is a Focus Sash Sneasler, notably, so it is going to feel pretty good taking an Earthquake. However, we can still double up into it with this Porygon2. As long as Ursaluna doesn't go down on this turn, we should feel pretty all right. And I think we should be able to outspeed with this Porygon2 here right now, but we are going to go for the Terastallization. We really don't want to take a close combat on this Ursaluna. We go into that Terra Ghost. If our opponent makes a good read here, we could be punished pretty hard. The Scale Shot comes in again, though. We know this is only going to take us down to about a third, or a little over a third of our HP, maybe only half, all things depending. And actually, we are still above half HP. After the burn ticks, we're not going to be feeling too good, but this Dragonite is at incredibly low HP, but the Throat Chop comes through from the Sneasler. Our opponent made an incredible call. If we had not gone for the Terastallization, I think we would have been fine, but now we're down to only 6 HP on the Ursaluna. And goodness gracious, burn is going to take us down to the end of the turn. What does our opponent have in the back? If it's something like Rillaboom or Volcarona, we might still be able to deal with it with the Porygon2. Ursaluna goes down to its own burn. We're in a precarious spot, but it's not over yet. It is going to be a 2v1. Jumpluff is going to come in. It should be the fastest thing no matter what with what our opponent has left. And they have King Gambit. That's probably the worst thing that we could see. We got punished for Terastallizing the Ursaluna from that Throat Chop. And we got punished here because we cannot Terrastallize this Porygon2 to go for the Terra-fighting Terra Blast. That hurts, but we do get the Sleep Powder off, and King Gambit goes to sleep. If Porygon2 wants to try to survive this, it is going to need to go for a Recover. That Terra Blast does not do nearly enough damage. We're going to need several turns of sleep here. Tailwind goes down. We need to get that thing back up. Porygon2 needs to have a speed advantage here, but we need speed and we need HP. We go for that Tailwind. We're going to get nice and fast. We're going to get a Recover off here with the Porygon2. If we can just get a couple of turns of good damage here with Porygon2, but no, King Gambit wakes up, goes to the Kowtow Cleave into the Jumpluff and takes it down. Porygon2 now in an absolutely impossible spot. It is a 1v1. We do not have that Terra-fighting. Terra Blast is doing almost nothing into the King Gambit, and we're seeing the Swords Dance come through. If we can get a critical hit here, maybe 2, then we might have a shot, but we're gonna need at least 1 crit. Another Terra Blast comes in, takes King Gambit down to half HP, but that's still not nearly enough. Another Swords Dance comes through, +4. Terra Blast in again. If we can get 1 more off, but the Kowtow Cleave comes through now. Porygon down to 9 HP, and our Tailwind goes down anyways. There's no way we win this. King Gambit outspeeds. Porygon2 goes down, and we lose the game. Into our best of 3 matches here. This isn't exactly up against a Regulation H standard team with that Infernape. Normally we would see something like an Incineroar, but overall these are still some pretty impressive Regulation H Pokemon. We're going to go with our most standard lead here and really our most standard setup. We are going to see the Incineroar and the Porygon2 here for us, and our opponent leads Infernape and Murkrow, so going for a little bit of a similar lead as we have, but it's Infernape versus Incineroar. One of the strongest of the past versus one of the strongest of today with that Incineroar versus the Infernape, fire type versus fire type starter. Now, I will say Porygon2 has got to be a little bit nervous about close combat from Infernape, but we are rather a bit bulky. I'm not going to be familiar with the close combat couch, but I think we should be able to survive it. The main thing is going to be Taunt from Murkrow that we need to be worried about. Now, Incineroar should probably be fine up against Fake Out, but we do go for the Terra Ghost in case, and that is exactly what happens. Infernape goes for the Fake Out into the Incineroar. We get a Fake Out off into the Murkrow to stop a potential Taunt from coming through. We get the Trick Room off. Great, we should be good here. Infernape is relatively speedy and it should have some pretty good damage, but this thing is going to be incredibly frail. So I'm expecting it to go down to just potentially a knockoff and Flare Blitz plus any of Porygon2's moves. Really going to be the Terra Blast here. Murkrow, I'm kind of okay with just leaving on its own. So we're going to target down this Infernape, and that Terra Blast does so much damage, followed up with the Flare Blitz actually into the Murkrow here. Not taking down the Infernape. That might be a little bit of a mistake. The Foul Play takes out Incineroar incredibly easily. That is a little bit of a danger here. I think I might have been concerned about that. Close combat comes in. Porygon2 is going to take a lot of damage, but we're taking that absolutely fine, and Infernape's defenses fall. Not that it would have mattered all that much with how low that speed stat is. Ursaluna makes its way onto the battlefield. Now, we're not going to have Guts triggered here, but we're still going to have good damage into both of these Pokemon. Infernape's going to go down to basically anything, and the Murkrow is going to take a lot of damage from Porygon2. We do actually see our opponent bring in their own Ursaluna Blood Moon here, and we go for the Protect just in case we don't want to get hit by a foul play. And Porygon2 does get hit by the top, but we already got Trick Room up, so unless we get hit by a unless we want to hit Recover, then I think we're fine. Our Burn does come through. We get a lot of damage into that Blood Moon Ursaluna. Both of our opponent's Pokemon looking incredibly low. Again, I don't know if I'm how worried about Murkrow I am. It'd be nice to get it off the field already. We don't really have to want to worry about avoiding Protects on our own Ursaluna in the future. That being said, Porygon2 should be the slowest thing on the battlefield right now, but the opposing Ursaluna Blood Moon does go for Protect here. It would have been tough if they did get some good damage off, and we see the Haze actually come through from the Murkrow. That is going to mostly affect the Porygon2, who had a special attack boost thanks to Download, but we get a Facade from our own Ursaluna. We would have been able to take out both these Pokemon basically no matter what, targeting 1 and 1. We go for the Facade into the Murkrow and Ice Beam into the Blood Moon Ursaluna's Protect. This is going to force out either Infernape or Pokemon number 4, and it's going to be the Infernape that makes its way back out onto the battlefield. Fake Out, once again, a possibility. We have already Terastallized for the turn, and we have gone for, we don't necessarily have to switch out the Ursaluna Blood Moon here, but we don't want to take a lot of damage from the opposing Ursaluna Blood Moon. We swap out our own Ursaluna, not a Blood Moon. Charizard makes its way onto the battlefield. Now, I'm a little bit more okay with Charizard going down. We don't necessarily need as much in this matchup, and the Ursaluna Blood Moon goes for a Terra Ghost on the other side. So we've gotten their Terra out, Fake Out goes into the Charizard. That's okay. We get the Ice Beam off anyways, and the Monster Point Blood Moon Ursaluna goes down. Now, Infernape is going to have to contend with this Charizard on the other side, especially as Trick Room goes down. Now, this Charizard is going to be incredibly fast, but they actually have Baxcalibur here, which does have the Thermal Exchange, so we need to be a little bit careful about hitting with a Fire-type move, but it doesn't have any spread moves here. It is loaded dice. It does have the Scale Shot. It does have the Ice Shard and Icicle Spear, but with the combination of Terra Blast and our own Ice Beam, combined with the Heat Wave, we should be able to do more than enough. But Close Combat actually takes on the Porygon2 here. Definitely didn't expect that from that initial roll. This could be a little bit tough if we have to face down this Baxcalibur, and Overheat doesn't do the damage. Both these Pokemon still being on the field is incredibly difficult, but Charizard avoids the Scale Shot. I think that's absolutely massive, especially after the Thermal Exchange buff here. I guess we got low rolled, then high rolled from this Infernape on Porygon2, which is really tough, but we should still be able to win this with Charizard still being on the battlefield, even if Infernape goes for a Flare Blitz or Close Combat. We resist both those moves and should be a-okay. Ursaluna should be fine as well to go for some big damage one way or another. Overheat from Charizard, and we actually Protect from the Baxcalibur, notably. I think if our opponent wanted to try to get some good damage off, they could have. An Ice Shard into the Ursaluna might have guaranteed a KO there, but Charizard gets to go for another Overheat. It does go into the Protect here, but Ursaluna gets some damage out with the Earthquake, which we get to click because we have a Flying-type partner in the Charizard that's going to take down the Infernape, and I think we should just add a bit of critical hit there. I don't think it matters all that much. We should just barely be able to survive off the burn. Yeah, down to 5 HP. We are a-okay. And with both these Pokemon on the field, the only issue would potentially be an Overheat miss. Baxcalibur needed to go for an Icicle Shard there, but we do not see it, and Baxcalibur goes down. We win game number 1. All right, game number 2 here. I am expecting a changeup from our opponent, so especially if they don't lead with this Murkrow, I want to get aggressive, lead with our Jumpluff and our Charizard. Maybe lead with that, or bring Incineroar and Porygon2 in the back, and our opponent is going to consider things for a while here, so we'll take a moment to talk about the team. The Baxcalibur is a little bit of a threat here to us. It really doesn't mind taking Fire-type damage because it can get a lot of damage off in return, and we don't really have great answers to it outside of Porygon2 going into Terra fighting otherwise. Now, of course, we do still have Ursaluna, which can do a ton of damage to the rest of the team, and we really have to watch out for that Sinistcha. I think coming back in, healing up Blood Moon Ursaluna, even healing up the Goldengo in the long term, or even healing up the Baxcalibur. Now, Goldengo I'm not too afraid of. We do have some really strong Fire-type Pokemon here. I would expect our opponent not to bring that, and just really focus on the Goldengo Blood Moon Ursaluna combo to get the most of the damage off outside of this Infernape. Our opponent actually leads with the same. Ooh, that is really tough here. Our lead right now is terrible into the Murkrow and Incineroar. Murkrow can just go for Taunt into the Jumpluff, and since it is Prankster, Jumpluff cannot do anything about it. We do not have Terra Dark. We are Terra Water on the Jumpluff here, and Infernape can just go for Fake Out into the Charizard, stop it from moving on this turn as Murkrow gets Tailwind set up on the next turn. Now, I am expecting Fake Out to come through here, so we do have the Terra Ghost. Our opponent does know this. We are in an open team sheet tournament while we are playing this match, but I am expecting our opponent to not think too much into that. Infernape does come through here. We get the Intimidate off. We don't mind that too much, and Charizard is going to go for that Terastallization. It is Terra Ghost here, so we are immune to Fake Out, but we do open ourselves up to taking some damage from a potential Flare Blitz. Murkrow does go for for the Tailwind here, but we didn't see the Fake Out. That does worry me. Flare Blitz comes in, it goes into the Incineroar here. I think we're fine with that. Heat Wave comes through, gets Murkrow down to half HP, and Infernape down to about 2/3. Incineroar now can go for the Fake Out here. This Infernape notably is a Terra Stellar, so it's not going to be able to Terrasilize away from that Ghost typing. And honestly, again, I'm not too worried about this Murkrow, but our opponent actually goes for the swap and brings in the Excalibur already. Ooh, that coming in early is going to be tough here. We are going to swap the Charizard out into Jumpluff. If we'd gone for some damage, we might have felt pretty good here, but Jumpluff now coming in up against this Excalibur. It takes 4 times damage from its Ice-type moves. I almost want to switch it out, but maybe we just have to sacrifice it. Infernape maybe going for a knockoff here. I don't know. We go for the swap. Porygon2 makes its way onto the battlefield here. It's very, very tanky, and we do get that special attack boost, and we do swap out the Incineroar as well, just trying to maneuver things into a better spot. Charizard comes through, but Infernape goes for coaching, not for a damaging move here. That is going to boost back Excalibur's attack stat. It is going to be the Icicle Spear into Porygon2. We should be all right, even if it does hit for 5. That is just the 4 times. Porygon2, okay. It's still going to be incredibly slow. We need to get damage out fast. We know that Overheat doesn't KO the Excalibur here in close combat, and the Porygon2 leaves it just barely alive. If we can get some damage off, but no, it's the Icicle Spear into the Porygon2 here. That is incredibly difficult to double up there. A really good assessment, honestly, from our opponent. The Air Slash takes out the Infernape, but honestly just gives our opponent a very safe switch in for whatever Pokemon number 4 is, or even bringing in that Murkrow. It is going to be that Monster Point, Blood Moon, Ursaluna. We do get to bring in our own Incineroar. Fake Out is available, but our opponent still has Terastallization as an option. We really need to take care of this Excalibur, but that is going to be a lot harder to do. Blood Moon into our Charizard is a very big threat, but we need to get the damage out somehow. We can't really wish Fake Out into the Blood Moon Ursaluna. We know that he's comfortable going for Terra Ghost. If we can get damage on the Excalibur, then we might be good, but I don't know. I think we just need to switch into Jumpluff, try to maneuver so we can get a Tailwind set up, be the fastest thing on the field, go for Fake Out onto the Excalibur, get that damage down so we can go Overheat into the next turn. We do see the Terastallization from the Blood Moon Ursaluna, but the Excalibur goes for Protect here. That damage from Fake Out would have been huge, and notably, how much damage is Blood Moon Ursaluna going to do into the Jumpluff? It's a critical hit. That is incredibly frustrating. Incineroar does go down below half HP, has to use that Citrus Berry. We should still be able to maybe get a Tailwind off, but with that 4 times weakness to the Excalibur, I think we're going down to an Icicle Shard no matter what. We can go for a knockoff into the Blood Moon Ursaluna, but we're probably going to be slower than it. This is a really tough spot to be in. I don't know how we get ourselves out of this. If we even do, Ice Shard comes through, Jumpluff goes down. I don't even know if we were going to survive that at full HP, or even after that single Hyper Voice. Earth Power comes through. We are not faster than it. Even outside of Tailwind, Incineroar goes down. It is up to Charizard, and we already know that it cannot take care of Excalibur in one go, and with us being Terra Ghost, we just do not have the damage or the resistances here. Heat Wave comes through, Excalibur down to half, Ursaluna down to half, and the Icicle Shard comes through. This is going to be more than enough damage, and we lose game number 2 pretty handily. Coming into game number 3, honestly, I think we're going to play this a little bit differently. We're going to go back to that aggression that our first best of 1 match had. Bring the Torkoal and Charizard, lead with the Incineroar and the Jumpluff in the back. Just go for full sun, full aggro on this. Even if our opponent leads with Fake Out, we're still going to be able to get good damage off with at least one of our Pokemon, and I don't even care if they set up Tailwind with this lead. Now, that being said, I would really like for Charizard to not get hit by Fake Out here, even if our opponent gets Tailwind set up guaranteed. It would still be nice for Charizard to stay moving on this turn. I'm not sure Torkoal with Eruption is going to do enough damage. We're going to go for that Terastallization early, again, avoiding Fake Out. Again, we could still take damage from Flare Blitz, but I don't know if that will KO. We are in the sun. That will be a little bit tough. The Tailwind comes through, and Infernape is going to be the next Pokemon to move. I'm a little bit surprised we don't have to Fake Out. Flare Blitz into the Charizard takes it down. That is insane damage. Charizard's not the bulkiest thing in the world, but I thought maybe we would survive on a little bit of HP, even if it Flare Blitz into our regular Charizard that would have done enough damage. We do actually go for the Overheat on the Torkoal here. It takes Infernape down to just a fraction of its HP. It is still alive. Honestly, I think this might be a good situation for us with the Infernape barely surviving, but gosh darn it, that is incredibly annoying to have to deal with. Incineroar makes its way onto the battlefield. Fake Out is still an option for both of these Pokemon. We're actually going to go ahead and bring in Jumpluff. We have Chlorophyll here. We're going to be incredibly fast. We should be able to get either a Tailwind of our own off, or maybe even go for a Sleep Powder or Rage Powder. Fake Out into the Murkrow guarantees that it's not going to move, and Infernape is still faster than us with the Tailwind. Jumpluff goes down. Chlorophyll not nearly enough. We're already down 2 Pokemon. Infernape does fall to its own Flare Blitz. Notably, that does feel pretty good. Torkoal's coming in, though. We're not going to have any speed advantage. In fact, Excalibur is here. Thermal Exchange is ready to rumble. Murkrow is there to provide support. This is going to be an incredibly difficult one to navigate. We have to stop this Excalibur from being able to get guaranteed damage. Knockoff into it, I think, is our best option. But, of course, Torkoal still needs to get this damage out. Murkrow being on the field is going to be annoying. It's not going to be the most difficult thing long term. I would love to either take it down right now or at least put it to incredibly low HP. It would be great on the next turn if we could get a pretty sweet double KO. We're actually seeing the terrestrialization coming through from our opponent. Is that Max Caliber going for Terra Water? So it's going to do even better up against our fire type moves. The Protect comes through from the Torkoal, though. We're not going to be aggressive yet. The Taunt does go into it. The Protect does stop it. Icicle Spear goes into the Torkoal as well. This is the main thing. Again, we can't let this Max Caliber get guaranteed damage into the Torkoal. So we knock off the loaded dice, let Torkoal have full HP for at least one more turn so we can get one really, really good eruption off, maybe, if we're lucky. And now we do still have knockoff that will do good damage in the Murkrow, but the Scale Shot no lead from Max Caliber goes into Incineroar this time around, not into the Torkoal, which is a little bit questionable, I think. We get the Citrus Berry out, we're gonna be fine, even if we get hit with the full 5. It is the full 4. Keep in mind, that's not loaded dice. That's natural. That is natural roll there, and a Foul Play does not do nearly as much damage in the Incineroar this time around. Another knockoff does a lot into the Max Caliber, and Murkrow goes down into the red. Oh gosh, darn it, we almost got the double KO there, and with this Murkrow still being on the field, the Tailwind does peter out, but you're gonna be able to set that up again. And if it's the Ursaluna, it's not the Ursaluna, it's the Gholdengo. If this had been the Blood Moon Ursaluna, I think we would have been done for one way or another. Hyper Voice would have done more than enough work, but this Gholdengo is in an incredibly poor spot. We still have Eruption, we still have Overheat, we can still go for Flare Blitz or Knock Off with our Incineroar. We have so much damage here, and Murkrow is not really doing much into either of our Pokemon. So even if the opposing Gholdengo does go for some damage, we're going to be in a great spot. It goes for Protect right off the bat. I think that's fine. What is this Murkrow going to do? It goes for Foul Play into the Torkoal. That's not going to do anything. We just have to knock off into this Gholdengo. We could go for Flare Blitz, but I really want to make sure we get this Life Orb off just in case for some reason we don't KO it. Eruption comes through, Murkrow goes down, and now it's a 2v1. Gholdengo can go for Make It Rain, but both of our Pokemon resist it. We should have more than enough damage with the combination of Knockoff and Flare Blitz to take it down. Or I said Knockoff and Flare Blitz, even over 2 turns. Incineroar should be absolutely fine. We can go for Eruption, we can go for Overheat, we can go for our own Helping Hand into a Knockoff or Helping Hand Flare Blitz and still do enough damage. We should be absolutely fine here. Shadow Ball goes into the Torkoal with Protect, though. We want to guarantee, just in case we don't KO the Gholdengo, which we don't, that we don't take too much damage. We get the knockoff. Shadow Ball might have done a lot, but Incineroar would have been fine up against that. It would have been fine up against this Make It Rain. We're going to get plenty of damage out into this Gholdengo. Flare Blitz comes through. Gholdengo goes down, and we win an incredibly close game number 3. Phew, those were some pretty exciting games, I'm not gonna lie. It's been incredibly fun to play and learn this team. It is incredibly intricate, despite how it really looks to be such a super high damaging team from the outset. It has a lot of very unique synergies that allow it to excel, and it's going to catch people off guard in a lot of different ways. That being said, there are some pretty clear weaknesses. Opposing Blood Moon Ursalunas can really cause quite a problem, and if you are forced to terrestrialize with your, say, Charizard, like we saw in our games, or anything else when you have to face down something like King Gambit that's going to come in the late game with your Porygon2, that normally that would be your answer to, things can get very, very hairy. It's by no means an easy answer to the entire format, but it is one of those teams that very much rewards time and effort spent learning how to play it. The code for the rental team is down in the description below, as is the Pokepaste. I highly encourage you to check it out, and of course, let me know how you do in the comments below. Thank you so much, and until next time, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.